because in this quest to have more and more and more and more followers, right? Like we wanted, at some point, Hoonigan was in the 20 million audience range across platforms. You're just thinking about how do you get to 21 million? How do you get to 22 million? You kind of stop thinking about how you service the original 500 who are like the ride or die for you.
Mr. Brian Scotto, man, it is a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Sorry it's taken so long. I feel like we've been threatening to do this for months now, if not
Threatening?
years.
Dude, how's your podcast going, man? I've seen you've been
good.
doing it. I've been checking it out. Do you like it? Do you enjoy this format?
Yeah, I've always enjoyed podcasting. It's actually the medium I most consume myself. So I think it's because I just don't have time in my life between being a dad, running companies, all that kind of stuff to like sit down and absorb video content. And when I do, I tend to watch like serial programming or movies because I still have like a massive love for film. So for me, a podcast is something I can like stick in the ear and like go run my tractor on my farm or work on my car or, drive back and forth to, the farm or things like that or go to a meeting. So I've always loved podcasts and I have forever. Like I don't want to say forever. I am one of those people who got caught into podcasts during the serial like trend. Remember when cereal was booming? It was like 2015 or 16 or whatever it was. And everybody was listening to cereal and like it got me hooked. I don't think I was ever like a talk radio person or really I enjoyed like Opie and Anthony when I was a kid working in New York City and it was something fun to do on, in the morning commute. But that I think really got me hooked. I listened to more and more and all different types, like from I don't really actually listen to automotive podcasts, but I listen to a bunch of other stuff and a lot of stuff in the film industry, so on and so on. And when I was at Hoonigan, I really wanted to do a podcast, but the reality is like it just wasn't, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze to the company because
relative to the rest of the revenue and everything else and the time and everything else.
Yeah, well, podcasts weren't, I think, on the level they are now. Like, there's a bigger audience looking for them, but it would take a lot of effort to put it together. And then when you're just looking at YouTube numbers, it's like a smaller percentage. So it's like, my podcast now, it's like the best episode's done like 70,000 views, which is really good for an automotive podcast. Like, if you look at what everyone else is doing, that's there. It's doing well. Yeah. But when you compare it to an average of 500,000 views a day, which is what Hoonigan was doing with all the other content, it didn't make as much sense. So we did one with Spotify that like was short-lived, but I'm stoked.
Do you think the audience is different though? Like, I mean, if you look at like your demographics and your metrics and everything, for what it's like almost like I feel like podcasts are this really like filed down, distilled version of an audience. Yeah. Which is going to be different than like a fully YouTube algorithm driven audience, right?
Well, I think podcast is just a different type of audience. Like they want to listen for longer. They want the deep like talk. They want the nuance. Like they don't want you to cut. They want like the whole story. And that isn't the full audience, right? So if there's like 100 people who want to consume content, like only maybe 15 or 20% of that want to consume it in a podcast format. Like it's a different kind of person. It's like the difference between, I'm a magazine guy. It's the person who reads the feature articles versus just reads the sidebars. Right. Like I'm a feature article guy. Like I would buy Vanity Fair and read a 21-page feature article because I enjoyed it. A lot of people bought Maxim and just read the sidebars. So for me, like most YouTube content,
they read Maxim. Yes, they read.
Yeah, exactly. So
I've always been thinking about like in the last probably 2 years, podcasting has gone from, just when we started doing Overcrest, we're like 500 and something episodes in, and it was purely audio, right? I would sit in front of Jake or I'd sit on the phone and I would just talk to somebody. And there's this different dynamic, and I'm not sure which I like better of what we're doing, where I get to see you versus just like holding the phone in your hand and just listening. It's like if you take one sense out of it completely, is it better? What's the difference in the format? What is the video format doing to what was largely dude, we get a lot of a consumption just on Apple Podcasts and Spotify still of people just listening. And I'm wondering what that has done to the medium as well.
It's interesting. I think for the actual making of a podcast, I really enjoy the connectivity of being able to see each other. Because I think one, you can read each other a little better. You're less likely to step on each other because you're not just like it's not just like waiting for the other
Yep.
person to talk. Um, but I still consume my podcasts 99% audio only. Like I still just like the audio only thing because it allows me to do something else.
Right.
Um, and I don't know, I also was like one of the kids who grew up reading, so I enjoy the imagination that can be created from a podcast. I think when someone's telling a story, I can picture in my head where if they're telling the story and then they're like feeding me photos or whatever, like
Yeah.
that's driving my imagination, which like I don't know, like it's valuable for some people, but I prefer it the other way. But I'm fucking old, so
And it does feel that way sometimes. All right, I want to kind of get going with a very philosophical question.
yeah.
And I'm sure you get asked this question a lot because it's your kind of your MO. Is what is the difference between a project and a fantasy? Like if you when you look at like a
Okay.
you know what I mean? Like we all like I've bought cars with like what I think I can do and what I think I'm going to do. And sometimes it's a fantasy, right? And then you also buy a car for a project that you're actually going to get it done and drive. For you, what is the difference? Like, how do you define, what you're going to take on for a project and which becomes which?
I think I actually really suffer with what the difference is. I think I buy a lot of
Yeah.
projects that are really fantasies, and then I realize that they're not actually ever going to come to fruition. But I don't know. I'm okay with that. I think it's good to dream a little bit, And then sometimes they do come together. Like I have cars that were supposed to be really simple projects and then kind of became fantasy cars. My Audi Q Quattro is a good example of that. I never planned for it to scope creep to where it is, but it just kind of happens and it was kind of fun along the way. But then I have other vehicles, like I have this F600, like an old 70s Ford that I have this ridiculous plan to build it into this ramp truck that's like Duramax powered and like it's got all these hydraulics on it to make it do all these things I want it to do. It's kind of insane and it's probably way more expensive than I think it is because in my head I'm like, oh, I'll do it this way. I'll be frugal. I'll get it all done. But I I think to rewind a bit, I really enjoy the paper build. I enjoy the fantasy of project car building. Like that's a big part of it for me. Like it fills a
Mhm.
lot of time for me. Like the search for the car, the research, like really understanding what you want to do, building out a really good plan of what you want to do, and then starting to hunt and track down parts you might want and all the different pieces that you need. And then trying to figure out how that's all going to work together. Like that's really exciting for me. And that all sort of happens in a notebook, right? Like that's before you even get to it.
Yep.
Um, so I don't know. I think I'm probably the wrong person to answer that because I've got a bunch of projects that I, you know, they haven't even been started yet because they're still sort of just like living in my fantasy league of project lineup. It's funny you mentioned that because I just actually did this. I think it was an ad spot or whatever for my next episode, and I referred to it as like fantasy league for like people who can't play football. Like I have like paper build projects for like people who can't finish their own projects, but you can still just pretend. You can fill up a few things. Like you can have a bunch of tabs open on your computer of all these things you plan to put in the car. I don't know. I enjoy it all. It's also one of the ways that like I've learned so much about cars. Cause like I'll just find like, ooh, I think I want a Mitsubishi 3000 GT. After like 27 hours of research, I realized I don't actually want that car, but I know a lot more about it now.
Yeah.
you know?
It's interesting how you go from like this. I don't know. I'm just kind of presuming this just based on, what I've heard about you and stuff like this, but you're a Volkswagen kid at heart, right? That's kind of where it
Mhm.
started. How did that journey start for you? And then when did that diverge into this diverse, spider web of all the other things?
Yeah, sure. So, I grew up riding BMX. One of the guys I rode BMX with had a Mark II Golf. This guy Tom, and I just thought it was super cool. He then got a Mark III Golf, like right when they first came out, like early '90s. It was probably like a '93 or a '94. And like as someone who rode bikes, especially in New York City, like cars like hatchback Volkswagens were super cool because we could throw our cars in the back or we could throw cars, we could throw our bikes on the roof rack. And like four of us could go leave New York City and find like cool trails to ride or a skate park or something like that. And then obviously snowboarding came about and it was even more, it was another reason to kind of attract to cars. Um, that was what got me into Volkswagens. My grandfather was into cars when I was younger. He passed away when I was 8, but I think he gave me that like initial love for cars. But I was a very pragmatic kid. Like I didn't read Hot Rod magazine in high school because I couldn't buy a car. So like I was into bikes because I could bike at the moment. And I was into RC cars when I was younger. Like I didn't really care about real cars until I was able to actually go buy one. And for me, Tom's Volkswagen was the reason I started to get into VWs. And then there was this other guy, Craig Olstein, who's like still pretty active in the Volkswagen
Dang.
community.
Yeah.
And he lived up in Montpelier, Vermont when I went to University of Vermont. And he had like a bunch of cool Volkswagens. I ended up buying my first Golf from his mechanic at a shop called ProWorks. I was 18 or 17 when I bought it. And that was it. I just got hooked on it. And then like from there, I really sort of I definitely drank the Volkswagen Kool-Aid. Like I could argue you why a Volkswagen was the ultimate car and like it would beat everything and so on and so on. If not a Volkswagen, an Audi, and if not an Audi, a Porsche. Like I really bought into the whole brand thing. And I was really like a loyalist. I didn't still to this day I don't really like BMWs, but that was really all I cared about. And I then got a job in the magazine world. And I started working at a magazine called Rides, which was hip hop car culture. That couldn't have been further from what I was doing. Now,
I was
cool. I
just
will
gonna
admit,
say, man, how does that Venn diagram work?
well, when you live in New York City, there's not like a ton of options for car magazines. Right? Like it wasn't like, oh, I'm deciding between Road and Track or Super Street or Sport Car by Car. It's like that just wasn't like there was one company that was doing car mags in New York, and it was this hip hop, music publishing company that decided to make a car magazine because they had so many wheel ads in their music mags and in their men's magazines that they just saw this as a money grab. Like, hey,
Yeah.
let's spin out this magazine. Dub was obviously already out there, and they're like, let's go do this. And I got an opportunity to work there because I had never planned to be an automotive journalist. That like wasn't really the plan. The plan for me was that I wanted to be like, I actually really wanted to be a war journalist. So kind of went a completely different way. Um, but I was working in the culture space and working for a bunch of different culture mags. And because I was into cars, because I could drive stick, I started getting invited by all the other magazines to go drive stuff for them. Cause they'd be like, oh, Porsche invited us this thing, but like no one even knows how to drive a stick, let alone drive a car on track. So I started doing that and then eventually met people at Rides. They gave me a senior editor position. Eventually I ended up taking over as editor in chief there. That publishing company trusted me to do 0 to 60 magazine. I launched that. And like in that span, I think it was this weird moment where I had to sort of take the blinders off and realize like, okay, Volkswagens, one, aren't the only cars that exist. Two, they're not the best cars that exist. And then three, you start to like look at things that you never thought you would like. For example, donks. Like that was not something that was in my repertoire of what I thought was cool. But you start to spend time with those people and you realize that they are just like Volkswagen nerds. Like guys who are into box Chevys and they have the nuances over all the different types of trim or the way the paint is done or how the lifts are done. Like they are as nuanced on how to lift a car up on wheels as we are in dropping a car on wheels. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it's
Yeah.
the same thing. And you may see a whole bunch of different stuff and you don't notice it because you don't live in it. And I don't know, that made me sort of like have a real appreciation for that. And then that just sort of opened it up. And next thing I knew, I was sort of like getting more and more into all different stuff. So whether, as an automotive journalist, I was driving all this new stuff. On the ride side, we were dealing a lot with old classics, especially like American, Chevy, sort of 70s and 80s kind of era stuff. And then when we started Hoonigan, um, I quickly realized that if I didn't actually care about it, I wouldn't like know it and I wouldn't be able to speak to it. And that sort of opened this world for me to like really want to get into stuff. So like when we moved to California, I had no interest in muscle cars. So much so that 0 to 60 had a strict rule, which was like no muscle cars. Cause to me, muscle cars was like boomer shit. And like that wasn't the magazine I was making. Like I was
Were
making a
you
mag.
right or were you
What?
wrong? Were you right in that assumption or were you wrong in
I
that
still think
assumption?
muscle cars are kind of boomer, but I think that there's a group of people that have adopted that and there's like a new audience for it. But when I was looking at muscle cars in the mid 2000s. Like it was like Barrett Jackson peak. Everyone's building
Boyd
69
Coddington, yeah.
Camaros, and it was real fucking boomer shit, right? So like it just was, and I also felt like it was well overserved. Like there was tons of
Yeah.
magazines talking about hot rodding. There was every TV show on, on Discovery was talking about mostly 69 Camaros. It was all the same shit.
Yeah.
And I was just sick of it. So at 0 to 60, we had this rule that like we only talked about cars that were post fuel crisis. That was like the cutoff for us. So, mid 70s, right? Was sort of where we picked up on it. And the thing for me was that, I just wasn't a thing for me. I moved to California. I saw a Nova drive by me in Venice. And I was like, I fucking need that. Like, I don't know what it was. I think it was just the change of climate, of environment. Like a muscle car never made sense to me in New York City, but man, in LA, it made sense. And eventually I bought and built, my Nova. And I started to realize like those were ways that like I was able to sort of understand the space more like authentically, was to go like get into it and like build it and be a part of it and like really live in it. And that was like, I think really important for the early Hoonigan days. Cause as you're trying to speak to more than just rally car guys and drift guys, it was really important that like, you kind of lean into those spaces. So like, I've gone down muscle car, traditional hot rodding, overland, big truck culture, medium truck culture, like all the off-road stuff, like all that stuff I just really kind of got into. And I just have a general real love. Like I like the weirdest stuff. Like it doesn't even have to be performance related. I just like cars. I don't know. Does that answer your question? I feel like I ran for
Yeah,
like
yeah.
5
I was gonna say, you mentioned the Kool-Aid of you drank the Kool-Aid, right? And I think we all have drank some sort of Kool-Aid of some sort in our life. You're drinking Kool-Aid literally right now, or tea, one of the two.
Yeah.
What makes the Kool-Aid? When you think about what Volkswagen gave us, and I don't know if it's a unique to that time period thing or not, but what makes that Kool-Aid that really just hits with car guys, or maybe even non-car guys, like just as a brand in general?
Now, the story of your car matters just as much as the machine itself. Every receipt, every late night fix, rally mile, that's your car's identity. But most of us have that history scattered everywhere. It's in your glove box, it's on social media, it's in a repair bill that who knows where it went. The Common Gear fixes that. It's a platform built by real car people for car people. It allows you to digitize everything: maintenance receipts, build photos, records, provenance, where it's coming from, where it came from, every mile that you log, every oil change. And it's all organized, all searchable, all in one single place. And if you've got decades of paperwork, perhaps, that you bought with a vehicle, guess what? They have a white glove service. They'll digitize everything for you remotely or on site. You'll hand them chaos, and they hand you back a complete car history. It adds credibility. It adds value. Think about if you're going to sell your car, everything now you can show is in one place, has records, is ready to go. Go to thecommongear.com, make your free account, and start building your car's digital legacy today. Nokian Tires has officially launched their newest tire, and it's one we're especially excited about, as it's tailor-made for the type of driving we like to do here at Overcrest. It's called the Surpass ASO1, and what sets it apart is it's a high-performance, all-season tire. It's made specifically for drivers who want the most out of their cars without sacrificing capability when the roads get slick. We know all too well how unpredictable the roads can be, whether you're out on one of our rallies, one of your own adventures, or just running to the grocery store. And let's face it, a car can only perform as well as the tires it's on. That's why the new Surpass ASO1 is so great. It offers the grip of a dedicated performance tire, but won't leave you stranded if the road or weather gets rough. Not only does it come with a 55,000-mile warranty, it also offers Nokian Tires pothole protection. If you happen to damage your tire beyond repair, Nokian will replace it for free. Check it out at nokiantires.com/surpass.
Yeah, look, for me, Volkswagen was this community element, right? I mean, still to this day, there's guys I met in Volkswagen who are a big part of my life, right? So Tony Harmer was one of my best friends. I met him through, cars, and then, Auto Creek, which is my car club. Dude was my best friend, or still is my best friend. My roommate, was there when I got married, was there with me at 0 to 60, was there with me through different moments at Hoonigan and stuff with Ken. And that's someone who I met, through the the Volkswagen community. There's other people like Jason Whipple, who even though we never met, like we didn't meet till recently, the last like 10 years or whatever. But he's someone that I knew from that space. I think that there was something really unique about the Volkswagen community, and I have a little bit of a different perspective on this, and I think some of the younger kids do, because the way I saw it, and the reason I started my own car club, was that in the late 90s, Civics or Hondas were it. Like
That
sport
was it.
compact cars were the movement. And Volkswagens felt really small and really niche, right? There were so many Honda kids out. I would go to Francis Lewis Boulevard and I would say there was maybe for every 100, Hondas or Nissans, there was 6 Volkswagens, right? I mean, there just wasn't a community there for it. And when the story of starting my car club is I came home one day, I was like 19, and I was like saying to my mom, I'm like, yeah, it's just a bummer. They're like, there's not really that many like Volkswagen guys down here. Cause I knew a bunch in Vermont because of Craig. And my mom said, well, why don't you start a car club? I was like, oh, I never thought about that. She's like, why don't you start a car club? And like, as I posted something on like an email list for like the VR6 drivers list or whatever, and started a car club. And I met this guy, Jason Slack, who was the vice president of the car club, vice president of Auto Creek. Me and him still friends. Like, he now has kids, and my kids play. My kid plays with his kid. And we started this thing called Auto Creek, and the tagline was "the family your parents never gave you." Uh, and like, but that was like such the vibe for us. Was like we felt like outcasts because everybody else was into Hondas. I think 4 or 5 years later, that changed, and the Volkswagen community was actually massive. But for me, when I got into it, it did feel like you had to sort each other out. And if you saw like another VW cruising on the LIE, you would wave to each other and get off at the next exit and like exchange phone numbers and hang
Yeah,
out.
like, "What do you
Right.
drive? What do you got? What do you got?" Yeah, I
Yeah, and it
remember
was
those.
like that was like such a cool thing. Like I grew up skateboarding, I grew up riding BMX, snowboarding, and also listening to like punk rock. And all of those communities were like that. Like if you walked in, like, my first day of college, I always talk about this and like how I think of brands. My first day of college, I very much thought like, what was I going to wear? Right. And it's like I was going to wear a hat that said I was into snowboarding, because I went to University of Vermont. Obviously, a lot of people snowboard there. And I was going to wear a t-shirt that was a punk band. And I think I wore like an Op Ivy t-shirt, and like a 5150 hat or something. And, and it's because I was waving that flag to be like, I'm into this. And like, that's how you make friends, and that
So
was
is the
one thing.
Kool-Aid a sense of belonging? Is that what the
I
Kool-Aid
think
is?
so. Yeah. And I think so. And I think once you belong, it's a little bit of a cult where like you can't say anything bad about the thing because like look, we could turn this into current politics today, but I think this is the problem with left and right is like
Yeah.
you get into something and all of a sudden like everybody follows the rules
Yeah,
and you're like,
human
you don't,
beings are very tribal in that
yeah,
way.
you don't
Yeah.
speak badly about it. You kind of like, everybody believes their thing is best because that's this sort of truth that you all have to have, right? To belong to this cult. And I definitely like I still kind of belong to the Volkswagen, Audi cult, but being a journalist made me change that. Like if I had to, a good example of this is like I would do comparison drives, and I'm not a BMW guy, but I would go drive the new BMW and drive the new Audi, and the new BMW was a better car. And I had enough journalistic integrity to say that, even though I liked the Audi more. And I liked the Audi not because it was a better car. I liked the Audi for my own personal biases. And I think that
Okay.
starts to kind of make you see, like, kind of see through it a little bit and go, okay, yeah, I was drinking a bit of the Kool-Aid. But for me, like, I still love the community. I went to Roots, not last year, but the year before, which if you're not familiar with is like the big, sort of classic Volkswagen pre-1999 event in Wildwood, New Jersey. And it was like a high school reunion. Like I had such a good time there. And it made me realize how old I am because it's the same thing as old dudes listening to the Beach Boys and going to like,
Well,
whatever
that's
the
where I was gonna go
good
with
guys
this
club
next
club
is
is.
like, does that Kool-Aid even exist anymore? Like, if you look at Volkswagen, just as an example, because it's easy pickings. If you
Mhm.
look at Volkswagen now, does that Kool-Aid exist? Do they even make it? Is it something that can be extrapolated out anymore? Does any manufacturer cultivate community or
I think that
belonging?
there's two things here. I think, and like it's easy to sort of, kind of confuse them, but like you have Volkswagen, the scene, and then you have Volkswagen, the automaker. And I think Volkswagen, the automaker, got like kind of understood what was going on with the scene in 2001 and then
Yeah, with the
lost.
little fast and the
Yeah,
smashing the
that was
car with the
exactly it. I
German
was
and
gonna
hitting
say
the button in.
Fast was probably the last thing they did where you're like, they understand the community, like they're at H2O, they get this. And I feel like from there they've completely lost the plot.
How?
So
Why? What? It seemed like it was just like this cash cow, this great community and this great grassroots thing where everybody is a preacher for you, telling you to buy a Volkswagen. They're telling your mom to buy a Volkswagen. You're telling your cousin, your brother-in-law, your sister, strangers on the train. It was like something that was like in our blood, right? I grew up a Volkswagen kid too. My first car
yeah.
was a Rabbit. It was Volkswagens forever, and then they just
Mm,
lost. How do
Think
you
about how many
lose the
people you
plot
know
of
with Volkswagen tattoos.
seriously? Everybody's
Serious
got one
amount of people.
on their calf right here.
Oh, yeah, that
I
was, like, the
don't.
classic one. I don't have one,
That was
but I don't have any, but I mean, that is crazy brand affinity, right? And if you think about it, like, that's existed for Volkswagen forever because they had that in the air-cooled gen. I mean, we're not the first generation of Volkswagen guys, right? Like, the Beetle, the Bus, I mean, that had its own audience, and then obviously, the Mark 1, the Mark 2, the Mark 3, the Mark 4. I think it starts to fall apart once you get to the Mark 5. I don't think they're supporting in the same level. Um, and it just sort of all kind of goes away. I don't know. I look, this is something that is really weird to me. I was telling James Pumphrey this that, I've been like having a war with Volkswagen in the comments because anytime they post anything, I just like troll them because they talk about, the GTI and, and their history. And it's like, guys, like stop living off laurels you don't care about,
every
right?
manufacturer's doing that though, right? Like
Yeah.
everyone's doing that. In the new like Porsche ads or whatever, I looked at one, it was like there was like a Targa that changed into a Macan EV. It's like what is the
Yeah.
vector of that? Heritage is almost just all that's left. Is
It's a tough one because I think, one, you look at we were this group of people that I think became, as you said, we were the like apostles for Volkswagen. We're out there telling people you should
yeah,
buy a Volkswagen. Like I'm telling my grandma bought a Volkswagen Passat. They owned nothing but American cars
yeah,
until I convinced them to buy a Passat. After that, they only owned Passats until they died. Both my grandmother and my grandfather, right? Like my aunt bought one. Like all these other people bought Volkswagens because I was like, these are really good cars. And it's almost as if the people who were out there being the VW evangelists, like they did the work so well that Volkswagen, I think, kind of forgot that there was this core that was really helping them push forward on that and would defend them and had drank the Kool-Aid and thought their stuff
yeah.
was great.
Well, they certainly
And like,
took it for granted.
yeah,
That's for sure.
I would not buy a new Volkswagen today. I tell people all the time because people will be like, "Oh, I want to buy a new car. What do you think of the new GLI?" I'm like, "I think you should buy an Elantra N. It's less money. It is way more fun to drive, and probably will have better support for it.
Right.
Like, and it doesn't feel like a bloated Camry."
It feels like a young company trying to do something.
Yeah, yeah, I know, and it's sad. Like, this was the joke. I mean, a conversation James and I were having was like, I'm gonna troll Volkswagen, and I think he's doing a better job at it because he made a whole video about it. But I'm gonna
I
troll
saw that
troll
video. It's
Volkswagen
good.
until they hire me to fix the problem. like, like I'm going to be that person because I just don't. I think that they could do a lot better, and you know, I'm probably more of an Audi guy now than I am a Volkswagen guy, and I think Audi's like ping ponging back and forth. You're like I think they lost the plot for a little bit, and then they brought the RS6 here,
Yeah.
right? And then they absolutely lost the plot in being like, we're going to be EV only. And I was a part of that because we did a deal with them. And then while we were doing the deal, they're like, oh yeah, we're not making gas engines anymore. We're like, what? Um,
Yeah.
and then they reneged on that and they're back. And I think I just saw
I think
something
everybody's
the other
got
day that
whiplash.
they've
All the
announced.
manufacturers have EV
Yeah,
whiplash right now. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I think Volkswagen suffers from that too. I mean, the ID Buzz
Yep.
is a perfect example of that. Like that the return of the original bus should have been a crusher, but it was like
Yeah.
overpriced and only speaking to people who want an EV. And like, if you think about
I
this,
called it out as nostalgia finance. Thing was 60 grand.
60 base. I
Yeah.
mean, like, you like to really get into something you want, you're talking 75 plus, and it's an EV, which means it's your second car.
Yeah.
It means it's your second car because you can't just own an EV if you want to travel more than an hour from your house. Like if you live here in California and you need to drive to Las Vegas, it's just not feasible.
Imagine being here when it's -10 and the thing's got 40% reduced
Yeah.
range. It's
I
just,
mean, and I think that's the thing you think about. It's like that's your second car, so like it's already a luxury because
Mhm.
you need another vehicle, or maybe it's your primary car, but you need a second car that can go further and deal with all that. So it's like it was a big ask, and I don't know. It just seems like it landed wrong. Like the weird thing for me on the bus is that the audience is boomer. Like I didn't grow up loving buses. I have a Vanagon now, which I think is pretty sick.
Yeah, but the Beetle did so good when they brought the Beetle back. The new Beetle did great, but that was
Yeah,
because it
but
was
they
like
brought the new
15
Beetle back.
grand.
But they brought the new Beetle back 26 years ago.
Yeah, time flies, doesn't it?
That boomer is now a lot more dead. Like, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like Gen X. So, I mean, to think about that, actually, it's a really good vision. Gen X is now at the age that the boomer was when the new Beetle came out. They should
Mhm.
have brought back the Scirocco.
Yeah.
That would have been a smarter move to speak to the Gen X audience.
Scirocco, Corrado, something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a new Corrado, a new Scirocco. I only say that because they keep bringing back the GTI and just making it more and more bloated. But like, I think maybe the bus just wasn't the right move. Like they're chasing a nostalgia that the people who have that nostalgia are like in their late 60s, 70s. It's
Yeah, I don't
crazy.
think most manufacturers fail at bringing back nameplates. I think Nissan did pretty good with the Z. I think that thing
Yeah.
is solid comeback, but I don't trust Volkswagen to do it at all. I really don't.
The new Beetle's a good example. I was never a big new Beetle fan, but like I definitely remember, being
crushed it.
excited about it when it came out because it was cool for the brand.
Yeah, they crushed it. It
Yeah.
was awesome for them. I mean, I didn't want one. I don't want anything that comes with a flower.
No, it
but-
definitely made water-cooled Volkswagen shows kinda whack because all of a sudden you go to
Yeah,
a
like a
Volkswagen
Beetle
water-cooled
class.
show and the new Beetle category was like 100 cars, and it was
Yeah.
like what vase you had in the dash for your flowers, and like
Yep.
everybody just had like some gross flower wheels
And
and
like
like
the
nothing else.
eyelashes on the headlights
Yeah,
and
and like
stuff.
eyelashes and like just like the worst mods and like none of it had any style. And like one of them would take best of show, and you're like, you got to be fucking kidding me. There's like a car here that has like 90 grand dropped into it, but you guys like the new Beetle. But yeah. Anyway.
All right. In 2023, you walked away from 13 years of your life.
Yep.
To do something new. Was there a time that you knew that was going to happen, or did it kind of gradually happen over time? Did you see it coming? And how did you deal with that change?
I always knew it would come one day, right? Realize when I met Ken, he had just sold DC Shoe Company. So Ken was on the backside of like no longer running a company, having a decent amount of money that he walked away from that with and decided that he was going to go race cars. So when we started Hoonigan, he already had a business model that was comparative to what we did at DC, right? Which was like, we're going to build this thing and we're either going to license it or we're going to sell it. So like from the beginning, I always knew that there would eventually be some sort of exit. I actually thought the exit would happen a lot faster. Like in Ken's mind, it was 5 years, right? But realized 5 years after we launched Hoonigan, we hadn't even launched on YouTube yet. When I say launched, we were doing YouTube, but we weren't doing daily transmission. So like Hoonigan was operating as sort of an ambassador brand, like where we were, where like our athletes were the marketing. So like athlete marketing is the technical term. So like, Ryan Turk, right? Chris Forsberg, obviously Ken Block, BJ Baldwin, right? All these drivers were the stars and we were building all this content and supporting them and backing all of them. And it wasn't until 2017 that, maybe it was 2016, I forgot, I think it was 2017, where we started uploading content from Hoonigan, like from the people who worked at Hoonigan. And we didn't do it because we thought it was going to crush. We did it because we had invested all this money in, camera equipment, and it was sitting for a month or so at a time. And we're like, hey, let's just make our own videos and like just throw them all. What's the worst that could happen? And we committed that we were going to make 20 episodes. And at 20 episodes, we were going to take a break and decide whether or not it was worth it. We released 20 episodes. We never took a break. We went on to release 300 some odd episodes of Daily Transmission before we stopped that show, and then went on to make thousands of pieces of content, afterwards. And I say that because to me there was just so many different chapters of Hoonigan. Like there was like the pre-YouTube era, which, like I said, was 2010. We say we launched in 2011, but I was already working on the project in 2010. So it's like 2010 to 2016 was before we ever did that. We were doing all this other stuff and we were building the brand in other ways. We were already at Zoomies, like all these things were already happening. So that was like one chapter of it. And I thought that would be the end of it. And actually, when the brand, we were sort of in this position of like, hey, we should license the company out. And like, we didn't really know what the next steps were. And the YouTube thing is what showed us that there was this whole other direction. And then that was like a whole other chapter of what we were doing with Hoonigan. And then from there, we brought in events, we did all this stuff. So while I always knew, and to kind of get back to your initial question, while I always knew that there was going to be an end in sight, we just kept kind of reimagining what the brand was. And in doing that, it kept stoking new life in it for me. And it kept making me like want to continue. But I once said to my wife, I said, at some point I'm going to get fired from my own company. And she like laughed. And I was like, no, it's like the founder's dilemma, right? Is that you eventually get to a point where, whether you bring in other investors or you get sold or whatever it is, that like your want to continuing to expand and continuing to grow is not financially feasible. And eventually a brand wants to get to a point where they become more strategic and they optimize and they become efficient. And that's where you make money. We never made money at Hoonigan. Like Ken and I got paid under market. Ken most of the time waived getting paid at all. And every time we made money, we put it back into growing the company. But like at a certain point, that's just not a business model anymore. So like for me, I always knew that there would be this moment where we would have to rationalize the business and actually make it something that worked. And I knew that would probably be the end for me. Right. So, I always joked I'd get fired from my own company. In the end, I didn't get fired, but I definitely got put in a position where I just wasn't enjoying working at my own company anymore. And that was the reason for me to leave. Right. Like, I think they would have been happy for me to stay, but they weren't going to be happy for me to stay and keep doing what I was doing. Right. It was more like, hey, how can we do more with less? And I was just not the more with less kind of person. At that point, we'd done so much. I'm like, I just want to do more and more and more. Like, I want to do all these other ideas that we never got to and we want to take up. And instead it's like, can we make this versus that cheaper to make? And I'm like, I don't want to make this versus that anymore. Like I want to do something else. Right. So, yeah, I don't know. It was a weird one. I always knew it would be coming some point. I think when it came, I wasn't really ready for it in the way that I thought, but like realized that, Ken's death put a really weird shadow and twist on all of that. So, I've kind of mentioned this before, but I already knew I was leaving before Ken died. Like it was already in my head, like I don't want to do this anymore. And then actually Ken's passing made me stay because I was afraid then if I left, the whole thing would crumble and this thing we built together would fall apart. And I think some people think that I take enjoyment in like the whole thing fell apart when I left, but I don't, because like I built this thing. It's a huge part of my identity. Behind my camera right now is my 911 and it still has Hoonigan stickers on it because like that's the car to me, right? Like my kid who's now 6 loves Hoonigan because he watches all the old content and he sees this whole thing and he's always like, Daddy, like I want you to buy back Hoonigan. And like I know, like, I get it, but at the same time, I don't know, brands like Hoonigan don't live for long, right? And it's a
burn,
weird,
man.
what?
It's a hot burn, man. That was
It's a hot burn. And like, look, I compare ourselves to Jackass a lot. Like there's this window in your life where you get to do really fucking crazy shit. And then at some point you're like, I don't really want to do that crazy shit anymore. And you back off a little bit or other things become priorities or you're just doing different stuff. And the chemistry shifts. And I think that was already happening at Hoonigan. And we just kept trying. What kept us alive was that there was always something new to go do, right? Like when content may have been starting to slack for us, we're like, we're going to go do Burn Yard. And that was a ton of fun, right? And then we got a new location and we were like, oh, we're going to do different stuff here. We were always like reinventing, which was a really fun part. It wasn't just about content for us. And that may have been able to keep going for a while, but you move into a big corporate situation, corporate companies don't understand like people who are massive risk takers, and not just actual taking risks and like things that are dangerous, but also risk taking and like we may spend a bunch of money here and it might not work, but like that's okay for us, So yeah.
Looking for the best app for navigating your next adventure? Look no further than Onyx Off-Road. With over 750,000 miles of trails and comprehensive offline maps, you can explore without worrying about cell service. The app features trail ratings, detailed information, and a discover tool to help you find trails near you. Onyx Off-Road also includes public and private land boundaries, so you'll always know where you can legally off-road, camp, and explore. Want to stay connected? The app features a cell service layer, so you can plan your route with service in mind, which is great for emergencies or just staying in touch. And for added peace of mind, there's a wildfire layer that helps you avoid active fires and smoky areas, keeping you safe and aware of current conditions. With tools like Route Builder, waypoint marking, real-time updates, and route sharing, you're fully equipped for any adventure. Try it for free for 7 days and hit the trails with confidence. Download Onyx Off-Road today.
Were you scared when you walked out and that door shut behind you? Maybe someone snapped the deadbolt shut and they wave at you from the other side and they're like, see you, dude. And then you
I
turn around and you
wasn't
look, it's just like,
I wasn't at first because when I left, I felt that the door hadn't closed. Like we had a conversation around, hey, you're gonna come back, we'll help you do Gymkhana. Like both, you know, like all of the head, people at the company were all saying to me, like, hey, don't you disappear. Like you said you'd help us with this, this, and this. And I thought, like, oh, this
is
is
that like,
great.
let's still be friends? Is that like,
Yeah, no, it totally was like a let's still be friends thing. And realized like I'm the one that quit and they were like, hey, and I was like, yeah, I'll help out with whatever. Like, I just don't want to do this full time anymore. And I just didn't want to sit in Zoom meetings anymore. And but then that didn't really come to fruition, right? Like I would like things would start happening and I would send them notes and be like, hey, you guys need to deal with this, and like no replies. Right. And it was very obvious to me early on that like I just didn't have a say anymore in like how things were operating. And while they might be happy to bring me back for Gymkhana, which they eventually did years later, at the time I was like, yeah, this just isn't that. And I don't think, and like, I've heard multiple people be like, oh, like you guys like planned this walkout. It didn't work like that. It was like Hurt had already left. He had taken a job with the Hot Wheels show. He forgot to tell people that he had left because classic Hurt. Hurt ends up uploading the video that he's left Hoonigan right before I announced that I'm leaving. And then after I left, I think everybody was trying to figure out what to do. Vinny decided to leave. I don't remember the order. I think then Ron left and then Zach left. And it just made it look like it was this like mass exodus. And I think part of it was like they just didn't really know where they were going with the brand and like what to do and how to manage it. And it's unfortunate. And I was like there was this mixed emotions there because I was bummed to watch this thing that I fucking sleepless nights over trying to make this brand work. I mean, shit, COVID and the lockdowns were so difficult on us, and like I was for sure we were going to lose the company through that, right? And it's one of the reasons we sold, right? Was we got to the end of how much more money can we borrow from this or that, and to keep things running, and stealing from Peter to pay Paul. The early days of the sale were really good because it got us out of a lot of our trouble, and it made everything kind of run smoother. But then I left and I was like, man, I'm just kind of bummed in the way that some of this has been handled, but I don't have any say in it. So like, I don't know, it was like that was sort of like a bummer for me. But then to the fear part of it, I had an NDA. So like, not an NDA, non-compete. So I left automotive, and at first I was fucking stoked. I worked in automotive since 2004, so for me, it had been almost 2 decades, or I guess, right around 2 decades. I was happy to walk away. I was happy to go do something else. As a creative, it was kind of fun to be able to say, I can leave automotive, go work at a top tier company with like in a top tier position. I was chief creative at Super Plastic, and go do this other really cool stuff and have that be successful. Like that was really fun. But within 6 months, I felt like I was sitting on the sidelines watching all my friends play in a sport that I used to play in. Right. And I think that's when I started to kind of be like, shit, can I come back and do this? Like, I really want to come back and do this. And, um, eventually the bankruptcy kind of put me in a position where, it had a really negative side to my pocketbook, but it meant that it kind of freed me from the fear of this non-compete or whatever. And I was like, okay, I'll come back and kind of do my own thing. And then ended up eventually, working things with Hoonigan, where I ended up coming and doing the Gymkhana film, which
That's gotta
to be
have its
quite
own level of fear, though.
what?
Having to come back and not it's gotta have its own level of fear of being like, "Okay, I was doing this other thing. I'm gonna come back. Alright, I've gotta create automotive content again." Did you
Yeah.
feel like any kind of pressure, like, "I have to perform," like, I don't have this Hoonigan thing that I'm working with anymore, I have to do it on my own." Were you intimidated by that, or was it refreshing and invigorating?
Yes and no. So I've told this story a lot, and I hate being sort of repetitive, but it was this major shift in my life. Right before Ken passed, I was really just bummed with the current situation for like what I was doing. And to get into that, I was it made sense. Like, I'm not knocking anyone who was at Wheel Pros. From the Wheel Pros perspective, they were like, "You're a good creative. You would be more valuable to the company if you were creative over all of the other brands." So, like American Racing, all these other things. And at first, it was really exciting, but those companies weren't willing to be as nimble or as dangerous as Hoonigan was, right? Like, they weren't willing to take the risks, which meant that every idea I had got sort of watered down and diluted into something that I wasn't proud to call my idea. Where like at Hoonigan, most of those ideas were mine. I was able to make them, and they'd be diluted because we didn't have maybe the money to make it happen, but like the rawness of the idea was still there. Um, and that was sort of this moment where I started to be like, man, I'm removed from my own brand. I'm not doing a lot of stuff for my own brand. I'm sort of just unhappy on just in general. Like, I always told myself, if I ever wake up in the morning and I don't want to go to work anymore, I need to question that, because I've always really enjoyed going to work, especially when you work like a 14-hour day or a
Yeah.
16-hour day every day. Cause like I would get up in the morning, I would work, and then I would go to work, and then I would get home from work, and I would hang out for like an hour or two with my wife, and then I would go back to work. And I was like sleeping on 5 hours a day every day, and that was my life, right? And you get to that, and you're like, if you're not enjoying that, you can't do that. Like that work life balance falls apart real fast. Um, so when I had this moment of like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. That was actually the scared moment. Like, it was November of 22, and I was like, what am I doing? And what am I going to do next? And where do I go from here? And I had bought this Audi 4000 that was sitting in Vancouver during the lockdowns. I never went to go pick up. And the owner, I text the guy and I said, "Hey, I'm thinking about taking a little trip to come get that car. You think it'll make it back to California?" He's like, "No, I don't think it will." It's like, "Okay, cool. I'm gonna come get it anyway." So I flew to Vancouver. I made a whole piece of content about this on Hoonigan. I flew to Vancouver and I drove it home. But I was by myself, and I got like a full week to just be like in my head. I have ADHD, so the only time that I can meditate is while I'm driving. Like, driving is one of those moments where I just get like hyper focused, and I very aware of the road, but I like my brain just sort of disconnects. I could be in the car with no music, no podcasts, and just sort of think. And I got to think a lot. And along that trip, I went to a then only Instagram friend, which is a guy named Foster Hunting. Foster Huntington, but Foster Hunting on Instagram. And he was like a van life. He actually coined the term van life. His backstory is he was a designer at Ralph Lauren, hated his job, bought a Vanagon, decided to travel the world, or travel the country. He did this just as Instagram was launching. He exploded because of it, got 1 million followers, had all these brand deals and all this stuff. And he was a big fan of Hoonigan. So he had this cool spot up in Washington. I went and stayed in one of the tree houses on his property, and we were chatting that night. He's 10 years my younger, and he's talking to me like he's 10 years older. Like, he's my like creative shaman. He's telling me like his route. And he said to me, you need to decide whether or not you want to mean, a little to a lot or a lot to a little. And like, I had never really thought about that before, because in this quest to have more and more and more and more followers, right? Like, we wanted, at some point, Hoonigan was in the 20 million audience range across platforms. that you're just thinking about how do you get to 21 million? How do you get to 22 million? You kind of stop thinking about how you service the original 500 who are like the ride or die for you, and I've repeated this and I've said this on my own podcast as well, but this was just this moment. Like it was this epiphany. I remember driving home and thinking, I want to mean a lot to a little. Like that's more important to me than meaning a little to a lot. I've meant a little to a lot. I did that, right? Like 0 to 60, I meant a lot to a little. We didn't have a massive readership. About 100,000 people read the mag, which is still great for print mags. But then Hoonigan became, especially Gymkhana, became this huge, one of the largest things in the space. And look, it was great. I think there were days where we meant a lot to a lot, but it's easier to like really be nuanced. And I like nuance and like really speak to a particular group. I mean, you take the event that Whipple and I did, Tref Punks. It's like the whole goal of that, like we wanted to mean a lot to 25 people. 25 people, like it was like, let's just make this one thing really, really good. And I know you guys do that with Overcrest, right? It's like, I just want this to be really good to the people who are there instead of making this thing that tries to impress a million other people. Cause like that was my old mentality. The old mentality was like, how do we do something in real life that speaks to a digital million people? Right. And I don't know, that just sort of changed everything and my perspective on things. So to bring that back to your question, I think when I sat there thinking about like, oh, are people going to expect Hoonigan level stuff from me again? I knew they would, but I just had to really put it out there that like, that's not what I want to do. And it's one of the reasons I went to go do podcasting. Like, I'm not looking to go make more build content and then be like, oh yeah, my build content needs to do 300 to 500,000 views per episode because that's what I was doing at Hoonigan. And anything but that's going to feel like a failure. It's like, I don't want to make something I've made before. I kind of want to go try something new and shift it a little bit. I've been enjoying the podcast medium. I'm kind of purposefully starting at a baseline and then I want to kind of grow it from there and try to do other things with the medium and push it. I enjoy that part of it. But I think, for me, not trying to be as ambitious as I was has been like really good for my soul. Because at Hoonigan, I was like too ambitious. I wanted too much. I wanted to be too big. I wanted to rule the world. Like the word juggernaut got thrown around a lot. Like that's what we wanted to be. And the problem is you get too big like that, it becomes hard to change the steering on the ship and all of that. And you start to kind of like lose the focus of why you got there to begin with, So does
You
that answer that for you?
Yeah. You build cars alone at all lately? You ever just like, there's you get so caught up in, and I used to do this, and I don't want to tell stories about me, but I would have to film everything I was doing. And you'd look at the Instagram stories, it'd be like tick, 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 tick. It would be like 50 stories about whatever it was I was doing in my car. And it got performative and you're building. And then I decided I didn't want to do that anymore. And most of the building I do now is alone. Have you been finding yourself like falling back in that and enjoying that process more?
Yeah, I do struggle not filming stuff
It's hard,
because it
isn't it?
became such a part of the way that I thought about doing things. And it's weird because you add a lot of levels to it. Like if you're going to be filming, well, like my workspace needs to be clean. Like, oh, I need to fix the backdrop over there. And if you have ADHD, man, it's a really good way to just distract the shit out of yourself and get nothing done. Because you're
Yeah.
like, oh, if I got to do this, I got to do this first, or like, oh, I need to sort that out before I show that on camera or whatever.
Mhm.
The other day, I just put this like panel. It's like a Mole panel, like Mole. I don't even know if it's Mole or Mole, like the technical panel, like like you like strap like bags
Yeah.
to,
Oh,
like
yeah,
milk.
yeah. Mole,
Is it
yeah, yeah.
Mole? Mole?
Mole, I don't know.
It's
I
like
know what you're
that.
talking about,
It's
though.
that delicious chocolate sauce from Mexico. But like the Mole panels, I had this company Agency 6 makes, and I put it onto my van, and it took me like an hour. I didn't film it. I just put it on. When I was done, I just like stood there looking at it. It was the simplest mod. Like I have done way crazier things with cars. And it gave me like cameras weren't on. I was by myself. It kind of reminded me how much fun it would be to like get a new part in the mail when I was like 20 or 21. And then Saturday came and like I wasn't working and I went and I installed it. And it was like one of those moments where I was like, oh, I think it's like the first time I haven't filmed something. The only thing otherwise I don't film is like maintenance. Like car's broken, I have to fix it, and like it's just not a good story. But anything else like lives on film, which kind of it ruins it. But I will say this: I really also enjoy filmmaking. So it's a
Mhm.
weird one for me because I know guys like Vinny don't really enjoy the filmmaking side of it. So for him, it really bums him out to have to do that. Like he'd rather just work on the car. Where for me, sometimes the filmmaking part of it's more fun than the working on the car part, and it actually motivates me to work on the car, if that makes
I
sense.
feel like I'm kind of in that boat. Like I've not worked on much since this car, Driven to Death car, was finished. I put
Mhm.
S50 in it, and I haven't. And that was before the rally last year, or maybe it was before Arkansas. Which that was. Oh my god, it's getting long now. I haven't worked on a car since I built that,
Yeah.
and I haven't done it. And I think if I had a reason to film or create content, it would almost force me to come out here and do it. And then once you get going, you get into the momentum of working on something, of course, then you're going. And then
Right.
it's like you've pushed the boulder down the hill and it starts rolling. But I need that thing to get me going. I just don't have it right now.
You have and by the way, it's funny because you said you don't want to talk about yourself. I run a podcast where sometimes I talk more than my guests because
I'm
I
trying
think
to
a
get
good
better.
I
I've
think
got a
a
little
good
piece of paper here that says "Do that less." That leave a note for myself.
yeah, but I think a good podcast is a good conversation, right? So I'm
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
ask you a question. You're a dad.
yeah.
How much did that change? How old is your child?
10 and 12.
10, 12. Well, you have 2 kids. Okay.
Yeah, both
Um,
girls.
mine is 6, and that has really I don't wanna use the word hamper because it sounds negative, but it's become something I'd rather spend time with my kid on the weekends than work on my
Hmm.
cars. I'd rather build Legos with him, right?
Yep.
Um, so that has really slowed down my working on cars because it's just not there right now. I think in a few years from now when he's more interested in helping actually just this morning, I was taking the license plate off my Ferrari because I was going to do some filming with Vinny, and, I was taking the plate off and he was like, "Daddy, I can hold your nuts and bolts for you." And I was like, I can't tell you how excited I got because I remember doing that for my dad when I was
Yeah,
younger, like, he's starting to, like, wanna
it's
do
that
that,
age, man.
and I think I might get more into it. I do dream about, like, oh, I really like I have this golf synchro, Mark Reebok golf synchro that I bought, and I wanna try to get it running in the next 2 months or so. But it's like I have to be realistic with myself of, like, what that time looks like because it's at my farm. My family and I live mostly in our house in Long Beach, which means that if they're not coming out there with me, it means that, like, not only am I away from them for the day, I also don't see them at night or the next morning because 'cause I'll go spend the night out there to work on stuff. And I'm a nighttime worker. Like, when I was at Hoonigan, I would work on cars from 11 o'clock at night till 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
I'm not that person anymore. Not that I can't work there anymore, but, like, I just can't not sleep, and, like, I wanna be
Yeah.
around my family and all of that, so, like, that's been a tough one, but I still find working on cars, like, super therapeutic. Like, I
Yeah, you're
enjoy the
right around that
process.
age, like 6, 7 years old. The girls would come out into the garage. Irene at this point now has, and Veronica too. Veronica's has changed spark plugs with me. Irene has pulled an engine with me. And a
Sick.
lot of times and I think the important thing to do, in my opinion, is you bring them out and it cannot possibly be work or a chore. It's like, "Hey, do you wanna help me?" And when
Yeah.
they're, like, feel done, you just let them go. It's not
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"We're gonna finish the job. It's the right thing to do. We finish what we're working on." I think that's the mistake that some people make. It's just fun. Or, like, there's a couch over there. A lot of times when I would be out in the garage working, they would just have a coloring book and sit there and just
Mhm.
be around. Um,
Yeah, that's girls. Have you ever met boys?
yeah, no, I've got it easy
My
right now.
My kid is attracted to the most dangerous tools in the workshop. Like,
Oh, that's
the
good
other
though.
day, he, like, put an impact on one of the wheels, and I was like, "No, no, no, no," like, it was, like, the big snap-on, like, I'm like, "That is going to spin that battery into your wrist in a horrible fashion." Like, that is not a
Mine
good
is like they grab the impact and they put it on and they're like, they touch the trigger ever so like tick, 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 tick. I'm like,
idea.
no, 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 you can do it. It's the opposite problem is what I
Yeah,
is
yeah.
what I have.
Yeah, so but no, I have this dream. So, I have a farm, uh, in North County, San Diego, and I have this dream of, like, one day I'll have a pole barn there, and all of my projects will be, like, really well organized, and there'll be boxes with all the parts on them, and I will just meticulously and systematically finish them all. I don't think that's gonna happen, but it makes me feel good.
No,
I think eventually what's gonna happen is I start to realize that I've collected way too many cars. I need to cut down on them. But I also need, for me, I need a good deadline. So for example, last year when you guys were doing Overcrest, it was 2 years ago, I can't even remember now. I really wanted to build that Cub van and bring it
yeah,
out. And like I actually got a ton of work done because I was just working on it to get to it.
yeah,
What stopped me was I realized, one, I think it just wasn't a possibility. But I also talked to a few guys who had Cub vans and they were like, "Oh, dude, they drive like garden sheds. Like you will die on a
it's
windy
not
road. Like
good.
it's a bad idea." Because in my head, I'm like, it's a Mark One. Like it'll handle pretty decent. I can make it
No,
handle. People are like, no, you don't understand. Like the full aluminum body, it's a piece of spaghetti. It's
yeah.
miserable. Like you will be
The
terrified. And I was
seats
like,
are bolted to the chassis. It's not. Yeah, it's
yeah,
tough.
like I lost all interest in doing that. But I need more. This is like a weird thing to say, but Vinny pointed this out to me. I need work deadlines to finish my cars. Like
Yeah,
I need there to be, because I think I get a little too guilty of like just working on my own car and like spending my time on it and not doing other things in life. But if there's like a work reason for me to get the car finished, then I'll get it done. Right. So like when I built my Nova, like we were going to Power Tour, we were committed for it, we're making content.
yeah. You didn't have a choice.
I stripped the car down, changed out the frame, put the whole thing back together, painted, new motor, new everything in 60 days because there was a deadline. So I need to start creating these fake deadlines. So I don't know. It's probably an Overcrest rally I'll get my Quantum done for or something this year.
Well,
So
there's 2 rallies this year.
can,
I
can you
can't.
talk about them
We have
yet?
not released where they are yet, but we have a rally in June and then we have a rally in the fall. So there's
Hmm.
2 opportunities for you to set deadlines for yourself. And your son is getting to that age where I think I took Veronica on a road trip across the country. She flew out to San Francisco by herself.
Mm-hmm.
This was after Luft in, um, what was it, Oakland. And we drove Mine Island all the way across the country with her. And one of the best memories of my entire life is her sitting on my lap, driving my 911 at 60 miles an hour across Nevada in the middle of nowhere.
That's sick.
She's just doing it. My hands are
I
off. We're
remember
just
this
doing it.
post on Instagram because I think some people gave you some shit about it. And
Yeah, I got all kinds of hater DMs and
I was
stuff
like,
too.
this is top level dad right here. Like this
It
is,
was it was it was the best, man. It
yeah.
was the absolute best. But and that I think she was probably 7, 8 years old. So you're right there, dude. It gets so fun, man.
Yeah,
It is.
he drives the tractor like on my lap, and he drives the Can-Ams and the Kubotas and stuff like that on the property. But I just let him drive the Rabbit the other day. And it's funny because in his head the Rabbit was going to be his first car when he gets older, but the Rabbit doesn't have power steering. He didn't realize how
Oh man.
hard that was going to be to drive. So
Yeah.
now he's like over the Rabbit.
Okay.
He wants to drive something else. So, but yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's great that he enjoys it. I actually think it might bring my wife Ashley back into the sport because she worked in motorsports. She worked for a bunch of race teams. Obviously, she was a producer on Top Gear. Worked at Hoonigan. And then when he was born, she kind of just like let all of the car stuff just like fall by the wayside because life
Yeah,
just
that's
gets
what happened to my
incredibly
wife too.
busy.
She's like,
And I kept, yeah, and I kept saying to her, "Do you want?" She has a 944, and I kept telling her, "Do you want to sell it?" And she's like, "No, because I don't want our son to think I don't work on cars."
mm,
She's like, "Eventually, the day will come where he's gonna want to work on stuff, and we'll put the motor back in the 944 together." I'm like, "All right, that's cool. I respect that. Like, we'll hold on to it for that."
I had a revelation the other day when, I always start the 911. It's winter. We can't do shit here. And so I have to run it every once in a while, start it up once a week, let it run. And she's like, I let her start it. So
Oh,
I
that's
let
cool.
her pump the gas and everything and get it started. It's carbureted.
Right.
It's a bitch to start. So she got it running. And then I realized that she can reach all the pedals. Now she's 12. She's tall. She can reach all the pedals of the 911, push the clutch all the way down, gas pedal all the way down. And I go, she could technically drive this car right now. And I got
Right.
this kind of fear of, okay, I got to put some sort of lock on the throttle, but we got to take her out so she can drive it. It was kind of a reality check that she could, because I always wondered, hey, she's on my lap, she can't reach the pedals.
Right.
She can now reach the pedals. It was like a milestone of being able to drive.
I got my son a quad. This company Kaio makes like electric quads, and it's kind of great because it teaches him counter steer, it teaches him like loose like, but that translates back to 4 wheels.
Yeah.
And like he's gotten so good on that thing. I mean, like he can do donuts, but he can also slide corners on it. I mean, he's 6 and he's ripping. So now I've got an old I forget the name of them, but it's like this old cart that Honda used to make. That's an electric cart. It was actually Leah Block's cart, Mini Moto or something like that. I forget, but it doesn't really matter. But it's like this micro cart that's like smaller than a cadet cart. So I'm gonna get that set up for him next. So it's fun. I built him some jumps the other day and like little like pump track, and it's interesting to be at an age where like I enjoy like building and prepping stuff for him more than I do myself now.
Yeah, it's
So like I
vicarious,
know
man.
that's
It's
going to be
great.
sort of a bit of a next generation kind of thing. So
And I all I think about is like, I won't be able to do this forever. I won't be able to do this forever. Almost to the point of anxiety and paralyzation of
mm,
like, I need to spend as much time as possible, and you get kind of paralyzed and there's never enough time. I bet I could sit with my kid for 24 hours in a single day and I would somehow find a way to go, I should have done more. Yeah, it's
yeah.
tough.
No, it is. And that's why I like, for me, it's like the cars will wait. I'll get the other stuff. I mean, man, I still get people just DMing me being like, why isn't this car done? And I'm like, because I have a family. Like, it's just not that important. And I also, people give me shit. I'm like, I have 26 cars and like 15 of them run. Like, that's pretty good odds right now. So
Yeah, that's pretty good.
spent that morning
I'm
driving my
100%,
Ferrari.
man.
Not bad.
Everything runs. This runs, 911 runs, my TDI Trooper I built that I never
Nice.
even updated the channel with. That nobody even knows that it's done, but
Yeah.
it runs, it's done. Yeah, it's pretty good. Okay, I want to talk about Aussie Shred just a little bit because I'm curious
Sure.
about a few things after
Yeah.
watching it. I'm going to show you a picture here, and then I have a question. All right, share. Come on. Mrs. Producer is usually here to help me with this, but she's not here. All right. So this is the most zen kangaroo I have ever seen. This thing just sits there. At first, I thought it was like stuffed. That was like a stuffed
Yeah.
kangaroo. It's at like 2 minutes or something like that.
So,
This little
okay.
buddy, how
So
did you get this kangaroo to sit still? Because this thing goes flying by at like a million miles an hour. And it just sits there and watches it go by. How is this like the best
Okay.
train?
Okay. So the initial ask was I wanted an animatronic kangaroo. Right? I
Okay.
wanted an animatronic kangaroo, and my art director, Matthew Holt, who's been with us since Gymkhana 4, he's great. He's a little eccentric, but he's like, he's British. He's like, I got you a wallaby, mate. And I'm like, a wallaby? Like, that's not like the same as a kangaroo. It's like much smaller.
Kangaroo light.
And he's like, no, I got you a wallaby. And then like the rental on the wallaby was crazy. It was like $1,500 a day. And I'm like, wait, you spent $1,500 for this stupid thing? I'm like, okay, now we have to put it in the film. But it was just a stuffed wallaby. So it's just taxidermy wallaby.
This thing is?
And so, yeah. So in post, we turned its head.
Oh,
Because I
okay.
wanted
Okay.
to
I
do
was
it. I
like,
wanted to do it, and we wanted an animatronic. And it's like, it's funny because it's like, I'm always about like, everything's practical. We don't fake anything. Yeah, we faked its head turn.
oh
So it was
man.
just a fake. I mean, not fake. It was once a real wallaby that had been stuffed. But yeah, we did a little head turn in post. So
So I think about like the risk that it takes to do these things. And do you feel like a gravity or a responsibility? I mean, even doing all these
yeah,
films, it's high risk, man. It's super high
yeah.
risk. How do you deal with that? And how does the crew deal with that from like a mental standpoint? I feel like I would just be on edge all the time waiting for something bad to happen because it's wild, man.
Yeah, I mean, you take that opening jump, which is over the big canyon with the road train underneath. I think leading up to it, Travis was like walking the jump and making like last minute corrections and taking additional measurements. And I think just kind of getting psyched up, and we're sort of waiting for light to just be perfect. And almost no one on the crew spoke to each other. Like, there's just this really uncomfortable silence that comes over us all as you're sitting there and you're saying, I know that we've tested this. It's not really that far. Like, it's 120 or 130 foot gap. We know we can do this. But if something goes wrong, it goes wrong real bad. Right. And like something as simple as a misshift, like a misshift in the system could, like, all of a sudden you're not carrying enough speed, or there's all these just different things that could go wrong that are mechanical issues or whatever. And it turned out that Travis actually didn't have enough speed while he was going up for the lip for that. He just stayed on the throttle all the way off. Like, Like when he looked at the speedo at like the bailout moment, he wasn't going fast enough, and he just decided to commit to it. So he actually overshoots it because he stays on the throttle. Like he stopped looking at the speedo and just
Yeah, you
ran
can
it
see
all
the
the way up.
front nose of the car start to dip a little bit.
Yeah, so he just stayed on it all the way up. And yeah, I don't know. You think about like you try not to think about it. You don't think about it much, at least for me. I don't think about it till right before it's about to happen. Like when we're getting ready for it, you're just like, oh, this is gonna be sick. This is gonna be sick. This is gonna be sick. And then right before you call action, you're like, oh shit.
Oh
You
shit.
know? The one for me of all the ones we've ever done in Gymkhana 2020, which was the one we shot in Annapolis, there was a scene where he does like a flat out 100 and whatever 20 30 miles an hour on a backcountry road, and he's just jumping basically like a natural jump that like we slightly augmented. And the crew, his team, like the Subaru team, Vermont Sports Car, was terrified right before we were about to do the first test hit. And I just like played the scenario through my head, which is like he crashes, like lands, right? And the worry is you land and you bottom out or something like that, or you break a damper and now you're basically a sled cruising at
Mhm.
120 miles an hour. And there was just this massive oak tree off the road, right? Like one of those oak trees that you would hit and you wouldn't leave a dent, right? And the car would wrap around itself. And I just ran through this thing through my head, like it happens, it's bad, and like I'm the only person who really knows his wife. She's 10 minutes from us right now. I'm going to be the one who has to deliver that news. Like, you're running your head through all the things that could go, and you're trying not to because you want to just like be there and be present in what needs to happen. But it's hard not to. And you start, and I was almost about to have a panic attack. Like I'm kind of starting to like breathe heavy. And finally I came over the comms. I said, hey, Travis, we want you to do like a half speed check on this. And he's like, no, I'm just going to hit it full speed. I was like, no, Travis, half speed. And he's like, no. I was like, the team is asking you. They didn't ask, but I knew how scared the team was. I was like, team's asking you to run this at half. And he was like, all right, fine. And he hit it at half. And like, once he landed and I realized like, okay, that like, what I was building up in my head wasn't there. Like, all right, fine, hit it full speed, and we hit it multiple times, and it was sketchy, but I think I worked myself up a bit more than it was. But I remember having this thought, and the thought I had was like, if something bad happens to him, I would never do this again in my life. So it's like not only is it like the absolute horror and tragedy of something would happen to Travis, but it's also like this is a massive pivot moment because I don't think I could ever call action on something dangerous again. So you kind of always sit there with that. And then obviously there's, he fell out of a building and broke his pelvis and ruptured, his bladder and tore his urethra and all these horrible things. And that was something that was very weird for me because one, I wasn't running the stunt for that. Obviously I've never base jumped before, so that's not my space, but I still called action. Like I'm still the one who was like, we should go do this. Right. And, yeah, it definitely weighs heavy on you. I think with someone like Travis, he sort of takes the responsibility and this is what he wants to do and he does all of that. There's definitely moments where you're like, man, if this goes wrong though, yeah, it weighs on you. I try not to think about it, but we all do. There's always that thing that you're like, this is really sketchy. And can go
Especially as you
real.
like continue to like push the envelope, right? It
Yeah.
started out, if you look at like original Gymkhana stuff, you're in kind of a, by
Oh,
street standards, a
yeah.
pretty crazy SDI by street standards. Now, looking at this Subaru, this brat, by the way,
Yeah.
I have on the map in Oregon from when I scouted, there's a brat behind a shed in Oregon
Yeah.
that if I ever go back there, I'm going to try and buy it. I hope it's still there.
Today,
Mark on my Google map.
Today, Vinny asked, so my son has a Ferrari F40 model, and Vinny asked him, what's your favorite car? Is it a Ferrari F40? And he said, no, it's a Subaru Brat. I was like, that's the magic of a Gymkhana film. He
Let's
wants to
go.
grow up one day and own a Brat. I'm like, I don't think you know what stock Brats look like, but that's okay.
I don't know. They're still pretty cool.
No, but there's, so one, I'm actually kind of happy that the Travis films are over because we pushed them into a world of danger they never lived in before. Like Ken had some dangerous moments, right? Obviously, the water's edge would have sucked if he fell in the water, but like we would have plucked him out. The train one in Buffalo was pretty sketchy, but like I don't think it would have been fatal. Do you know what I'm saying? Like you start getting into some of the jumps that have dead stop, landings. I mean, it's just simple physics, right? Like if a
Yeah.
object in motion comes to a complete stop, your brain ends up in the front of your skull, right? And like these are things that are just very dangerous. But then at the same time, which is crazy to think about, that first Gymkhana film, pretty low risk. There wasn't a lot of things in the
In
first film,
hindsight,
in hindsight. But the one thing is that car had no roll cage, no safety, pretty much nothing in it. So like the car that Travis competes in has an FIA rally like tub cage. Like it's the one that's spec for like a WRC car. So it's like it's built to roll down a hill. It's built to do all of that. He has all like the safety's all on the top level. So it's weird because even though the earlier films weren't as dangerous, the cars are way, I mean, 10x safer. That first car was just a street car. Like it was
yeah.
absolutely a street car. So no cage. It had harnesses maybe, but they were like connected to like, I don't know, the rear belts or
The
something. I don't
seat
even
belts in the back
remember.
seat. Yeah, just
Yeah, like it definitely
it's the
was
stuff
not.
the way we built stuff, though.
Yeah,
You had a
yeah, it was a
harness,
street car.
but it just went to the rear seat belt
Yeah,
and
yeah.
probably at the wrong angle.
So, but yeah, I think like that era is cool. I don't know what's next for the Gymkhana franchise. It's not my business anymore. It would be really cool if Leah took it over because Leah's 19 years old and she has the ability to say, I'm bringing this back down to ground zero and building it back up because she isn't her father or Travis when it comes to driving. She hasn't been doing this for 25 years. That's not where her skill set's at. Like she could go back and make her version of Gymkhana practice. And I think the audience would be stoked to see her go do it because like
Yeah.
we're resetting, we're lowering the bar. The Travis and I took the bar to a pretty sketchy place. So I was like, when we were finished, I'm like, okay, we got through all three. And other than a ruptured bladder and broken pelvis, like kind of got out unscathed, which is crazy to say. But at a certain point with the Travis films, it's like, I just don't know how much sketchier shit you can do.
Is there something that, obviously you're doing a podcast now, but, just kind of cap things off, is there something that you want to do? Is there like a dream Scotto thing? Like, what's the dream Scotto thing without giving away the idea? But what do you want to do?
The dream Scotto thing for me right now is to go do car action for movies or TV shows. Like I love film and I love cars and I have a hard time watching films about cars because they don't
It's
live in a
painful.
reality that fits for me. My barber, I've been going to him for 15 years or whatever. He was a cop, right? Like worked like, crazy. Like, he worked in like Rampart. He like was part of the crash. Like, so he saw it. Like he was in the heavy stuff, undercover, all this different stuff. And he said he loves movies. Me and him talk about movies all the time. He will not watch cop movies because he just can't suspend belief to watch them because they're so ridiculous compared
Doctors
to what.
don't watch doctor shows either. You'll never find a
Yeah.
doctor that
Well,
watches
it's
a doctor
funny
show.
though, but like, so my mom's a scientist. Her friends say The Pit is the closest thing they've ever seen to
I've
like
heard that.
real life, what it is. What they said is it's like 3 months condensed into a day, but it's still not outside of what happens, right? And I just would love to be able to affect movies in a way where we could at least make the action feel a little bit more like what happens in Gymkhana than what's happening in the current day Fast and Furious or whatever,
Did
I
you
think the
watch
closest
F1?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of where
Okay.
my brain goes first is like the
So
over-explaining that they did in that movie to try to make it palatable for a regular person drove me nuts.
so I actually might disagree with you there because I understand what you're saying, but they were shooting to make a blockbuster, and I think that they succeeded. Like, I think that worked for them, and I think we all have to say, if you're going out there to make a blockbuster level movie, like, you gotta kind of play the Hollywood narrative to make this stuff like work in a certain way. I found it entertaining. I enjoyed it. I didn't think anything was like beyond the pale for me, especially in like the driving sequence stuff. Like I thought all of that felt either broadcast or like just a slightly plus up from broadcast. That's that 180 camera that everyone got really excited about. Don't think really served as well as people thought it did. I actually think some drift kids have done better jobs with making their own DIY versions since then. But I think in general it was okay. I'm no longer a big Formula One fan, so like maybe I'm a little more disconnected from it. But I know people who like watch F1 every weekend. Like they had a ton
Yeah.
of problems with it. I just think that
I find
whenever
it tough to follow.
I think whenever anyone makes a film about a sport you're in, you're not gonna like it. I don't think boxers like Rocky. I just think it's really difficult to do that. I actually don't wanna go make car movies. I wanna make car action and other movies better. Do you know what I'm saying? Like when
Yeah.
I watch like James Bond, like there's sometimes where I'm like, why? Like there's some scenes like that Land Rover scene that they did, like whatever, I don't know how many years ago that was, like going down the hill was sick. But a lot of times I just watch it. I'm like, why isn't this practical? Why is this CG? Like, why did you cut here? Like, you could do this for real. Why are you faking this? Like, what,
Have you
like,
talked to anybody about potentially being able to do this? What's like the roadblock? It seems like you're the guy. So
yeah, I mean, now
what's the
it's really just
roadblock?
a focus. So, over the summer, I worked on the film with Sung Kang called Drifter.
Yep.
So I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. Obviously, it's a super, super low budget, feature film. Got to do I got to do all of the action stuff, which was in the world of drifting. So I think some of it stayed very true to just what drifting is and just tried to make sure that that felt authentic. And that was fun. But again, what I really would love to do is like a heist movie,
Mm-hmm.
right? Ronin is the reason I love
Yeah.
car filmmaking. But there hasn't been a film like Ronin since 1990, whatever,
Did you
7,
see
right?
you see Death Proof?
I did. I think Death Proof is good. I think Baby Driver is probably the best there has ever been. Um, and my friend Jeremy Fry did the driving for that. And that's not I didn't know him till after he did it, but I think the opening scene for Baby Driver is fantastic. There's a bit of a Gymkhana 1 homage there, I think, definitely. I think there's parts of Death Proof. I think Death Proof works in the Death Proof space because it's very Tarantino, it's very Grindhouse. Like
Yeah.
there's things about it that are super fantastical in the driving that I wouldn't do, but it makes sense for the type of movie that is and like what like a B film's supposed to kind of feel like. But I've watched I don't even know if I can name all of them, but like I watched, like so many chase scenes recently where they're either shot on a volume, which is basically just like a CG studio and the car doesn't even move, or they're shot in a way that like everything's kind of faked, or it's just not good, right? Or they just do the like, let's just shake the car and it makes it feel like there's a lot of energy here. It's like, man, we could go do this for real. So that's where I'm at right now. Like if someone's listening to this and they want me to help, do the action stuff, that's where it's at. I really like movie making. So I think for me, like if I could do some more second unit directing in the action space, sick. But in a couple of years from now, I'd really like to just direct films. I enjoy making, I enjoy storytelling. Like
The
that's
stunt
always
stuff is hard. We've had a bunch of stunt drivers. I'm always fascinated with that stuff, man.
cool.
Like the guy that drove the Batmobile in the new
Uh-huh.
Batman. We had him on, and we've had. Have you ever seen The Wraith?
Yes.
The
Yes.
stunt driver. That
Yep.
movie changed stunt driving. I'll send you the
Mhm.
episode. We interviewed the guy that did all the stunts for Charlie Sheen and drove that, which was
Yeah.
actually I think a Ford Probe, if I recall
Yeah.
correctly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember, but
I
that
haven't
like a
seen that
bunch
in
of guys
forever,
were.
but I mean, there's definitely, and I think that still lives in the practical era, right? I think the issue I have right now is 1970s fantastic car chase stuff and all
Yeah,
of it,
that's
right?
because there was dudes in the back of a dually
Bull,
with a camera, and
yeah,
they all
like
died
Bullet,
driving off a
yeah,
cliff.
Bullet, Gumball Rally, like all these things that there's so many of them, right? Like Rendezvous, like
Yep.
French Connection. I mean, there's just so much that's out there, and every time I mention them, people are like, why didn't you mention this? It's like there's tons of them, tons of them. Dirty Mary, Crazy Larry, Vanishing Point. Like there was an era where they were doing this all practically,
What's
and
the
this was
Steven Spielberg film where the dude's in the red car getting chased by the semi? He's in a Plymouth. He's in a Plymouth
Yeah.
Valiant, and he's running from the semi. I can't remember that. That's
Yeah, but again, they were fantastic through the 80s, and I really think Ronin is sort of one of the last ones that really was like, we want this to feel real, and and we want you to be in the car. We want this really cool energy. And then, new technology was like, we could do it differently. We can do CG, we can do all this other stuff.
yeah, but it was also
And
safety too, because these dudes would. I mean, it was almost like this race car mentality. Like these
yeah,
guys were ready to be
oh, for
hurt. They
sure.
were ready to maybe die
Yeah.
doing this stuff.
And I
I
think
say
there's also, I think, an element. I also blame a lot of it on things like gimbals, because I think all of a sudden everything needed to be slick.
yeah.
And like slick, like everything's got a camera car, everything's a gimbal, like everything has to be this like super overly produced slick piece. And you watch the Gymkhana films, they're not like that. Like our like, we want the rawness. We don't want the camera to be more of a hero than the car, right? And I think that that's where, like, for me as a filmmaker is so different than for a lot of other people, is that I respect the car more than I respect the camera. I want the car to fucking own the scene, and I want the camera to capture it. Where like a lot of cinematographers want the people to talk about how good the camera work was. It's like,
Well, if they're talking
no,
about that, then you've lost the plot already. Because if you're
well,
talking about the shot,
you're not paying attention to the moment. You've been
that's
taken
right.
out of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, back in the day when Hoonigan was doing a lot more like white label work, our tagline was, we capture action, we don't manufacture moments. Right. And the idea being was like, the way we shoot this is like, we are capturing that action. We're not out there trying to manufacture something that doesn't exist. Right. So like, because you would watch the way that other guys would do, car commercial stuff. And you're like,
Mhm.
yeah, but anyone knows that, like, that's not how that car moves. Like, why is it that every Acura commercial has to have drifting in it? Like, y'all motherfuckers sell front wheel drive cars. Like that's not how those cars drive. Like we all know that the minute the car started to loop out, you cut and went to another shot. Like, I don't understand why everyone has to sell it that way, So, but anyway, back to it. That's what I want to do. I really would love to make my own movie, direct the whole thing. I don't actually want to make car movies. I want to make movies that have a lot of good car action in them. So I'm
Yeah.
actually writing a
Well,
screenplay
car's
right
awesome
now.
for movies because it
That's
lets you, when you have a
Yeah.
car in a movie, it's a transit point. It allows you to like move from one thing to another. There's such a great tool. Cars are good. Cell phones are bad. Cell phones are the worst thing to ever happen in movies, and cars are still awesome.
Cell phones are the worst thing cell phones may be the worst thing that ever happened to humanity, but we can get into that conversation later. The car movie is the modern Western. The man and his horse, like, it brings you from town to town. You can escape with it. You can, use it for battle.
It's a status symbol.
It's a status symbol. You can feel a connection to it.
You can go to war with it.
Go to war with it. Yeah. I mean, and I also love the road trip movie. I think the road trip movie, like, just going from one place to another is always, and whether you use a car or any kind of vehicle, like, those are interesting storylines for me. So yeah, I don't know. That's the goal. The goal would be to go do that. I've been taking some meetings. It's a tough world to get into though, man. Like, the Sun Kang project was super valuable for me because now I have an IMDb credit that says I'm a second unit director. Before that, I was just a guy who made internet videos, and Hollywood looked at me as that. So I think it took that one person to take the risk on me. And now, literally after having that IMDb credit, now I get meetings. Now people are like, oh, you worked on a feature. You know what you're doing. Like, all right.
That sounds like a really tall fence, man.
Years. What's up?
It sounds like a really tall fence.
Yeah, it is. It is. But I think I will try my best to go after it the way that you're supposed to. But in the background, I'm just going to, build my own thing if I have to.
Do what you got to do.
Yeah. I mean, that's, that was the 0 to 60 model was, Road and Track wasn't going to hire me. So I made my own magazine. And then, 15 years later, Larry Webster redesigned Road and Track to look more like 0 to 60.
One of my first features, I don't know if you knew this, was in 0 to 60.
Really?
Yeah. It was a orange Caterham 7 there was a guy that had a Red Bull race suit, and he drove it in Chicago at a track. I don't remember if it's like a Lotus Super 7 or something like that. It was like it has SR20 DET in it with a big turbo. It was tangerine orange. and the driver had a Red Bull suit. That's all I can remember. That's the maximum my brain is able to retrieve from the archive.
So you wrote that article for us?
I shot it. I did not
You
write it.
shot it.
I shot that article. I
So
wasn't
that was
writing back
for
then.
right. So I remember that because that was for the Lotus feature we did, right?
Mhm.
We did a Lotus. It was Christian Edstrom, who was once
Yes,
Travis Pastrana's co-driver before he quit Rally.
that's right. That's
And
the
he lived
name.
in New York. It was weird. English was his second language. He's one of the best copy editors I've ever had because he understood English as a study, not as something he learned. Like we all speak with vernacular because we learned English as
Yeah.
children. He learned English as an adult because he was Swedish. And so he learned English as an adult, but he learned it the way we learn math. So he was just really good at grammar, like better at grammar than any of us were. And then he started writing for us as well. And he was our copy editor. And then he wrote the Lotus story. Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure there's a couple other things too, but they've since
Yeah. I ran
fled
a
my mind.
13-page Lotus story. Do you have any idea how obscene that is in the magazine world to run 13 pages on a Lotus? Yeah.
Hey, anytime you get 13 pages in on anything, that's a big deal. Dude, Brian,
Especially a Lotus.
thank you for hanging out with me, man. I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to seeing you on a rally. Maybe I'll see. I'm coming out for Road to Airwater with the squad. We're gonna do a
Sweet.
rally out there for Road to Airwater. Maybe we'll see you then.
Again, like I said, we just need to make a deadline. I have to commit it to someone, and then somebody has to give me like a minuscule amount of money so that I feel like I'm on the hook. So like, hey,
Okay.
FCT Euros, like you have to get this finished, and then I'll do it. Like that's what
Okay.
it is.
Well,
'Cause I have
figure out what
a
car you want to
car.
bring, and then I'll pressure you.
Well, I'll tell you what I want to bring because
Okay.
so we'll end on this. So I have a Quantum Synchro wagon.
Ooh.
Because I love Audi 4000s. I think they're one of my favorite driving cars of the VAG world. Like I love how they handle, all-wheel drive, like the steering's really light, but you can't sleep in them. So the Quantum Synchro wagon is basically an Audi 4000 Avant, right? It runs the same drivetrain. A lot of the parts are similar. I think you can even like nose swap it. It takes a little bit. It's not that easy, but um, it's similar car. So when I sold my 4000 recently, but I bought a Quantum, and now I'm just trying to decide what engine should go in it. And my whole concept for this car is that I've realized that one of the like for me, my therapy is driving cross country, like getting in a car and going somewhere. And I actually really enjoy doing it by myself. And I've realized that even though I've got, a Land Rover Discovery, I've got my crazy Econoline van, I got my van, I got all this stuff. I don't enjoy driving trucks long distances. Like at the end of the day, like a truck is great to go do truck things,
That's a
but
tool.
but I really enjoy driving something that can handle, but also something that I could leave in a sketchy parking lot in a random, hotel, somewhere, and I don't worry about it. And the Quantum Synchro wagon, I think, kind of checks all those boxes. Like I can
Right.
sleep in it. I can like it looks kind of rough on the outside. I can run suspension, with cups on it, so I can like give myself a little bit more room for dirt road. It's all-wheel drive.
Well,
Put a
what's the
turbo
engine though? Is
engine
it
in
like a
it, so
10 valve
altitude
turbo
doesn't
or
matter.
something? Or what's
What's that?
the engine choice? Like a 10 valve turbo or what?
I think I would do a 1.8 turbo,
Okay.
because 1.8Ts never lose, but
Never.
also because, they're pretty plentiful still in junkyards, so, like, easy thing to repair while you're on the road. They get decent gas mileage. There actually is, like, a massive aftermarket for them. They were originally longitudinal, in the A4, so it's
Yep.
pretty easy to get that sorted. They mount up to the transmissions, and I've actually never owned a 1.8T.
Really?
So, yeah, because as much as I'd love to do a 5-cylinder turbo, the problem is like 5-cylinder turbos aren't easy to find spare parts for. Like if my
No.
shit breaks down in Wisconsin, I'd have to have like Dave Pecoraro from Utah ship me parts. Where like I'm pretty sure an Instagram post will get some 180 parts delivered to me.
Yeah, I had a
So,
tough time. I bought for a moment, Overcrest bought Matt Crook's Audi 4000. Because
yep,
dude, in Minnesota, they're legendary. In the
yeah,
winter and stuff, dude,
fantastic
ice
cars.
racing, there's like Glacier Lakes Quattro Club just rips ice racing
Yeah,
still. I'm like, this is gonna be great. And it was like so hard to find parts for. Monumentally, I've never experienced that I've owned like 100 cars. Never in
yeah,
my life. Something parts for that car. Hard.
yeah,
Crazy. What is
yeah.
Audi doing? Just make some freaking parts, you lazy. You talk about
I
your
mean,
heritage all the time. What are you
They make
doing?
all the parts. They just don't sell them in the United States because of some weird legal agreement between Audi of America and Audi AG. Audi transition. You could buy all those parts in Germany. They're just not available here. So,
What a
there's a
shame.
whole other beef.
Dude, fix it. Come on, man.
I've been trying. I was literally working with Audi and I couldn't fix it. I tried. Every time we'd be in Germany, they'd be like, "Okay, what do you want to do next?" I'm like, "Audi tradition." They're like, "Oh God, stop!" We just wonder what Gymkhana film you want to do with Ken. I was like, I just want to be able to buy clips for my Coupe Quattro. Like, I just want to be able to get windshields. You can't get windshields. You break a windshield on the old cars, and you're just out of luck.
Oh, I just ran into that with a Scirocco windshield. I ended up finding 2 of them in like Tennessee, and I bought both. And now I don't even want to drive the car.
But this is what is going to probably make me switch over to Mercedes-Benz as a car. I don't like BMWs, but I know, but
You can get these things for like $2,000.
I live here in Long Beach. The Mercedes Classic building is 5 minutes from my house.
Yeah.
They sell all of the parts. I can get
Everything you
all of
could
the
ever
original
want.
stuff.
Everything.
Same thing with BMW. Like,
Yep.
at a certain point, I have an D2 S8. Every time something breaks on it, it takes me a month to find the part just to get the car back on the road because I have to like go on ebay.de or like track something down.
It's not cheap though. It's not cheap. It's like the
No,
Mercedes Classic is not cheap, but at least it exists.
at least it exists. So you can try to track it down cheaper, but at least if you can buy it. Like, they don't make window regulators for my S8 anymore. So if a window breaks, so I bought a parts card just to get a window regulator.
That's the thing that I can never own. I've always wanted. I want to own that. I would love to own a Phaeton. I am not buying a Phaeton.
Phaeton is like the escape room of automotive projects. Like, it is just an
But I want a W12 so bad, dude.
No,
I
me
want it
too.
so bad.
Me
I
too.
want it so bad. Double
But
pane glass. I remember back in the day, you'd be like, "Oh, dude, that thing's got double pane glass." Oh, really? Yeah, check it out. Quiet. Just shut the door. Oh, those things were dope.
When it first came out, I was a journalist. Got a loaner from Volkswagen. We took it to a Volkswagen car show up in New Hampshire. It was like a camp out kind of thing. And I remember we nicknamed it Barbara because it just sounded like the right name for their car. It was like blue on peanut butter.
Yeah.
And I still don't know if I've been in more of a lap of luxury than I was in that car. And I've driven Rolls Royces, I've driven Bentleys, I've driven Maybachs, I've driven them all. And that car just felt so good, like fresh from the factory. I've heard they're absolute nightmares.
The worst.
Yeah.
The worst. It's like impossible. It's like absolutely. Well, it's funny. Like, do you think of the build quality of a Phaeton or the Audi A8L from W12, whatever?
Yeah.
These really like high end things. You get into an S class now, and you're like,
yep,
everything's like plastic. The door cards are plastic, and not everything's. I think if you get like an S65 AMG or something, it's gonna have Napa leather wrapped all over it. But that used to be just the baseline. It used to be really high end.
I've had a D11, which is like the original, A8. I had a D2 A8. which I still have now. I had a D3 and I had a D4. I think the D3 was the nicest. Like,
what year's the D3?
That was like 2000. That's 2004 to 2010 or something like that, or 2012 or whatever. And then I think 2012 starts the D3. I had a 14. Fantastic engine, 4-liter twin turbo, like with a chip and pipes, makes 600 horsepower, which is absolutely. I mean, it's basically the RS6 engine, which is absolutely insane in that vehicle. Great in the D4, but the D3 was the most luxurious feeling car. I love big body sedans. Like, I either like really small cars like Rabbits, or I like A8Ls, like just big, like, that's the hip hop in me.
I've never done it. I've only owned, I guess I've owned 2. Okay, never mind. I've owned 3 S classes from various 70s, 80s, and 90s. The 90s S classes are terrible, but I've never owned like big body Audi ever. And it's on my list. I'd like to find, they made a D3, they have a TDI, right?
Yep, they did the TDI.
That's what I want.
I mean, the cool one in that space, like the one project I'd want to do is a D3 A8L with the S8 V10 in it. Because the L one, I think, looks better. Like, the longer body looks better. But for me, because I'm so big, at 6'8", it's still, I can have my seat all the way back and an adult can still sit behind me in it, which is like one of the things I always loved about it. That to me is like an ultimate build, but I don't know. I'm new car. I'm on like an anti-new car thing right now because like I'm just so sick and tired of CAN bus problems with my D2 S8. And I'm saying new. That car's a 2002. That's new to me.
New
So
is OBD1 or OBD2 and newer feels new to me. Anything like 97, 98 and newer is all new. Anything
yeah,
pre-OBD, like my buddy Jason Larson's screen name is pre-93 only.
yeah.
So that's like pre-93 only. I think I'm struggling with what project I want to do next. You can tell me if this sounds crazy or not. R107, I got served an algorithm of like this guy that has a 289 Mustang. And
Uh-huh.
it is like and I've heard one at Road America too, at like the vintage racing. Like a built high revving 289 is like one of the best sounding things of all time. It's
Why is this in all of our collective dreams right now? Because it
oh,
must have been
dude,
something that went viral on Instagram where I was like, this is one of the best sounding engines.
it's
Because I saw a
unbelievable.
clip. I was like, what is that?
I
Yeah.
saw one at Road America and I found the car in the paddock. I'm like, dude, what is going on with this thing? It had like IDAs on it or whatever. He's like, yeah,
Mhm.
just like cams, IDAs, headers. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, really not much. Like, dude, I'm like, I
Was it
gotta do this.
de-stroked?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think he was sandbagging. He didn't really want to tell me. I don't think what he had.
De-stroking is where it's at. De-stroking makes everything sound cooler. Are you familiar with the guy Joel Francisco? He had like a V10 purple S6 Avant, like a 90s.
The name sounds familiar, but I don't know the car.
So he's like well known in the Audi community, but he just built a B7 RS4 with a V10 in it.
Mm.
And I think that's like the next that like to me that I think might be like the next newer car project for me. Like that's kind of a perfect car to me. Like V10 in the body of I love the B7 RS4. I think that's a fantastic
This
car.
man talks about how he wants to finally move into the Mercedes world. Now he's talking about a V10 and an Audi. Come on, man. Come over to the dark side.
Yeah. I don't know even what Mercedes. I mean, I love 190Es. I really love is it W123 is the
Yeah, the 123. Yep.
that's
Kind
like
of
the
the
car that
legendary
was like
one.
considered too good, right? Like they built too
Yep.
good of a car.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
that and the 124, it's just almost bankrupted them because nobody would ever bring them in for service.
Yeah, because they just didn't break. Like
It's
you
just
go
a
look
break.
at those cars today, the interior still looks nice.
Yeah, it's
Like
because there's like radiation in the vinyl. There's got to be.
For a while I was really into like 1968 to 1972 like I'm trying to think what those would be, like 280s or whatever.
Like a W108, the
I
big body
forget
car.
now. And like
It
so
has
those
the
are
headlights that are over under in the front, right?
yeah. And I was really into those. I thought they just looked really cool slammed, and I wanted one as a cruiser in California, and I started looking at them. And every single one I looked at, the interior was perfect in. It's like, this is crazy because I look at the equivalent American car from 60s and 70s, and the interior, especially on the
Roached.
West Coast because of the sun, is roached. These cars all
MB
had like
Techs, man.
perfect interiors.
It's probably, I mean, there would be a prop warning on it for California if MB Techs existed and was sold new today. I can guarantee you
Yeah.
that. I don't know what is in that stuff.
Whatever it is that they put in those.
I cannot recommend this chassis enough. You should drive one if you haven't. It's a 114. It has independent rear suspension. It has a subframe, double wishbone in the front. It's got a drag link. That's kind of like the bummer about it.
That's late 70s?
That's like late 60s, early 70s, like 68 to 73, 74, kind of in that period of time. The problem with the Mercedes stuff is all of the engines back in the day kind of suck.
You know, you have to do an engine swap.
You have to do an engine swap. I got so frustrated. So I built a I don't know, M110 or something. It's like a twin cam engine. It looks beautiful. And my buddy Alex 3D printed intake manifolds for it so I could put Webers on it. So it had side direct triple Webers on this twin overhead cam engine. I got AMG valve cover for it. I was so excited. Drove it all the way down to Road America and it spun a rod. And I'm like, motherfucker, this was like the second one of these engines that I've been through. And it had like a 4-speed transmission because the 5-speed's like $4,000 and only belongs in an SL. And I called up Mike Burrows. I was like, dude, this fucking car. He's like, dude, just swap an S50 into it. Or maybe it was Byron. Byron and Mike, I think, were both like, just swap an S50 into it. And like a week later, I was driving down to Chicago to pick up an S50. All the engines suck. Unless you get like dude, this is a big thing. You start swapping engines in these Mercedes, these dudes are like Ferrari guys with you pulling. There's like some Napoleon complex, something going on with guys. Maybe it's because the BMW engines are so much better. But until you get into the twin cam stuff in the 90s, everything before that sucks. It all
Yeah.
sucks. The transmission sucks. I mean, the dog leg in a 190 is pretty good, but everything else is just all bad. It's all bad.
So, I've got a Toyota Corolla A86 that I have a VR6 swap for.
For
So,
or it like that sounds predictive,
it's
not
been in the
declarative.
car, but it hasn't ran. It's back out of the car now, and I don't really have a place to finish it, but my plan is to finish that, but then just like the engine build is really nice. Did like the integrated Tectonics built like a really dope engine for me. I've got a I forget it's like a TKO, I forget TKX or whatever trans behind it. And I've decided that like I'm gonna finish that car, drive it, and as soon as I'm bored of it, I'm gonna sell it but without the engine. And then I'm just gonna start taking that engine and start putting it into a bunch of rear-wheel drive cars that I just would like to drive, but I don't want to deal with their engine. So it's just like, so I might have a VR6 Mercedes, I might have a Maserati bi-turbo that's VR6 powered. Like all the cars I've ever looked at on Marketplace have been like, yeah, I'm just gonna build like this is just my Mule engine that I move from things to things. You just got to weld engine mounts for it. Sounds
Yeah, I
logical.
think the only issue is the oil pan on some of this stuff is like you have to move the oil
It's
pan
a dry,
around. That's
it's a dry sump engine.
oh well, there you go.
That's that's the whole point. Yeah. So
yeah,
you're like,
that
I don't
makes
have to
it.
worry about that.
I've looked at
Yeah.
that on this because I've got like I've shaved down the oil pan. I'm gonna have somebody make because it's all wrong, dude. In this car,
Yeah.
the normal Mercedes engine is like this, vertical, and the BMW engine's obviously at an angle. And it pushed the oil pan up into the subframe. So I had to pull the subframe out, cut it in half, re-weld it, do all this shit. And it still is just like this micro hair away from the subframe. So I either need a dry sump, which is $3,000, $4,000 to
Can
dry
you
sump this
space the
engine.
subframe like a 1/4 inch? Just put
Um,
washers in?
uh,
This is no longer a podcast, by the way. This is just a phone call.
you,
The minute we start being like, you should do 1/4 inch shims for your subframe.
I think you probably could.
I mean, if you're going to lower it anyway, you're already changing the geometry a bit. So, might as well throw the whole geometry out the window.
I
So,
honestly just rebuilt the whole subframe. It's close now. I think I could just have the oil pan like have a custom made oil because it's too low too. Because it's BMW engine oil pans are so low. This thing is probably that high off the ground. I've already shaved all the cooling fins off the bottom of my oil pan, so I'm thinking I'm gonna either. I thought I would try to get Wise, and I bought a 3D scanner and stuff. I was going to scan in this oil pan and design one in CAD, and then have somebody 3D print me.
Mhm.
But there's a guy that makes pans for E30s. I'm like, dude, just move the sump to the other side for me. And then I'll just have like a raised pan with a sump. That's where I need it. I think that's going to be the answer.
That's how I did it. A buddy of mine designed a pan. We 3D printed it, put it on to make sure it would clear. And now I'm going to get it CNC'd. Now that it's like actually like, okay, that looks good. My buddy is Sam.
Yeah.
Do you know Sam
Yeah.
from Canada?
Not. No.
He's like the quiet Volkswagen Audi like engineer whisperer. Like he's the guy that designs all the stuff that like when you're like, oh, I need a plate to be able to run a dry sump. He's like, yeah, I already have one. I already made one. Like he made all this stuff no one ever asked for. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
like he like looked at those cars like they were going to be Formula One race cars and over designed everything, and then no one bought it. So he's got it all. So
yeah, the Volkswagen stuff is cool because everybody was designing things for people like us. With the BMW like M stuff, and like it was designed for people that want to race their cars.
right.
So then it's like it's this presumption that you have race car money, and I don't have race car money, so it's like it's harder.
Race car money, and you've got the ability to drive a car around with like Delrin and Heim joints.
Yeah.
So like everything just rides super hard.
This thing drives so
I'm over
nice,
that
man.
phase of my life.
Yeah, this thing is awesome. I'll probably have it out in California sometime. You can drive it. Maybe I'll drive it out there I want to show it to Mike because it was his fault that it ever happened in the first place, him and Byron. And then maybe we can tool around in it a little bit.
I'm down for it. I'm always down for a day of ripping around. You could actually just come out by the farm because I've got really good roads by the farm, both paved and unpaved. So
It'll probably be out on a rally too. So if you come on a rally, you can drive it then.
oh yeah, that'll work.
There's your
So
shortcut.
tell me when that is, and I'll try to see if I can get Or I'd get my Quantum done. At least like a version 1 of the Quantum done for that would be good. So
For fall, you've got some time. But I'll tell you what, it's in the fall. Get started right now. That's my
there you go.
advice.
On top of the 3 other cars I plan to build this year. We'll see.
Exactly.
I built 0 last year, so we'll see what happens.
Same here. I think it's the 289 R107 SL. I think that's what I keep coming back to. So that's
Dinner's ready.
oh, there it is. My dinner's
That's
probably
it.
ready
That's
too.
the wrap. We
That's a wrap.
we have an old 1950s home, and that's the original intercom from the 50s.
That was intercom?
That my wife like meticulously it's an intercom that runs on tubes.
Oh,
Like a tube amp runs that intercom.
dude,
And I may be wrong here, but I think she found, it was either this or the jukebox in the house. Like she found an old man who used to work at the company and like who had retired and found him to fix it.
I love tube amps, dude. I've built a bunch.
Yeah.
My kids just built Nixie clocks. I love this stuff.
Oh, nice.
Okay. All right. Go eat, dude.
Right.
Thank you. And we'll see you around, man.
Hopefully see you on a rally. I feel like I've told you too many times I'm coming. I got to come now. So
I'll start holding you to it.
all right. Thanks, Chris.
All right, man. Yep.
See ya.